Okay, so I want to do 3 more problems. I realized that I was kind of rushing through to get to the end of the video with all of the derivatives in there without taking into consideration that the problems that I were doing are probably the most difficult ones to understand. So I'm going to take my time with these. All right, so what would happen if we have g of x equals 4 times the 5th root of x to the 11th power? All right, we could rewrite this as 4 over 1, which is still 4. X to the 5 is going to travel and sit underneath the 11th, so this should be 11 over 5. Okay, notice these are just rewrites. So now I'm ready to take the derivative. So I have number times x raised to some power. Okay, so the derivative is, pull the 4 over 1 out. We should be multiplying by the power, which is 11/5, x to the 11 over 5 minus 1. Same 2 steps. Pull the power down, 1 less power. So then my derivative, g prime of x, equals, multiply straight across, so 44. And multiply straight across, so 5x to the 11/5 minus 1. Okay, so if you struggle to do this by hand, 11/5 minus 1, then I would suggest you using your calculator and then converting it back to a fraction. Some people don't struggle with this at all. They say, oh yeah, this is, instead of putting a 1 here, let's just write 5 over 5, which is 1. So then they would get to the point where g prime of x equals 44 over 5 x to the 6 over 5. Okay, now unfortunately for you guys, I'm not going to allow you to leave negative or fractional powers. Notice this is positive 6 over 5, so it should land in your numerator. So this is 44, and the root that you started off with is the same root you should end up with. So if you start off with the 5th root, you should end up with the 5th root. That makes this a little bit easier. So x to the 6th power. And indeed, you can check to see whether you're right by letting the 5 come and sit underneath the 6. That's what you have here. And in your denominator, you've got a 5. All right, so what does the next problem look like? What if you have m of x equals the square root of x all over 10. All right, so this one looks a bit odd, but it's not too horrible. There is an invisible 1 right here, which means that we should be able to write this as 1 over 10. And if it's a square root, there's an invisible 2 there. There's only one x here. So I'm going to let the 2 travel around and sit underneath the 1. So it should be x to the positive 1 over 2. All right, so we're ready. So then m prime of x, pull out the 1/10, 1 over 2, x to the 1 over 2 minus 1. Same 2 steps, power down, 1 less from the power. So then m prime of x equals, multiplying straight across, 1 over 20, x to the negative 1 over 2. All right, so then m prime of x equals 1 over 20. Some people like to do this in steps, and I'm going to do it that way now. Notice you have a negative power here, so you simply could just shift your x to the denominator and then rewrite it. So let's see. We started off with a square root. We should end with a square root. And indeed we do. X to the 1 power, right? So you could always check it by coming around and let it sit under there. So there's your answer. All right. So we only have one more problem to do, and it was the one that I started on that last problem, video. I want to finish that here. So I'm going to start as I did in the last video and just do it in its entirety. So if we have f of x equals 6 over 13 7th roots of x squared, like that. So this equals 6 over 13, and then denominator I have x to the 2 over 7. Okay, so you'll notice I'm doing it in steps. So I'm still doing another rewrite, no derivative yet. So no slope generating machine. X to the negative 2 over 7. So now I'm ready because I don't have any x in the denominator. So then f prime of x would equal 6 over 13. And we get negative 2 over 7. X to the negative 2 over 7 minus 1. Same two steps. Bring the power down, 1 less from the power. So then f prime of x equals, let's see, multiply straight across, negative 12. Multiply here straight across, 91. And we get x to the negative 9 over 7. Okay, getting us closer. So this equals negative 12 over 91. And we could just do it in steps. X to the 9 over 7 in the denominator. And so finally, we get negative 12 in the numerator, 91 in the denominator. And if you notice, what we started off with was the 7th root. So that kind of tells me where that 7 is going to go. And this is x to the 9th power. You can always check to see whether you're right by seeing where the 7 comes and sits around underneath the 9. That'll give you x to the 9/7.